Welcome home, racing fans. Well, I'll tell you what, you're in for a treat. MR Slotcar, if you're not familiar with the brand, I can tell you right now, it's just top notch. This car really is made right here for this environment. Non-mag wood track competition racing, and by Ernie Mazzetti. And if you haven't had the honor of speaking with him or meeting him, well, those that have, they'll let you know this guy knows what he's doing. And this is what happens when you have an actual enthusiast making a slot car. Doesn't make a lot of them, but the ones that he does very well. So I'm really excited about cracking this thing open and taking a look. All right, so took it out of the sleeve. Underneath the case, check the bottom. You get a little card right here, gives you a number, 114 of 550. Of course, this is a tribute library. This isn't 100% accurate, but we'll get to that in a second, but I think it looks great. But when you talk about limited edition, well, this isn't 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000, 550. So I'm pretty proud to have this car, and it's just kind of neat that he puts us inside. Okay, so on the outside, like I said, this is a tribute livery. It's not 100% accurate to this exact car, but I could care less. The choice of the silk cut on this Jag, well, they work together, don't they? So I think it's just outstanding. Clean and crisp, opaque. I don't see any issues. Just very well done all the way around. And you know, just looking at this car, not that I'm a big Jag fan, but this car is just screaming as I'm fast. It's low, it's wide. I bet this thing hauls the mail. But anyway, hats off to him. This is just well done. Okay, so a little bit of tech on this car. Got it sitting here, 85 grams. That's respectable. Not a problem with that. And the dimensions, 64 millimeter wide, give or take a few. That's what my caliper says. The length is 143.25 millimeter, and the height is right around 31 millimeters. So I might be off a little bit, but that's pretty close. Okay, time to get a look at the inside. I know a lot of you are eager for that. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to start though at the front and with this guide. This guide is his design. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, finally, a guide for our kind of track, a deeper guide. Good length here. He's got a leading edge here in front of the bulkhead. But the first thing that impressed me is the fitment in the chassis. I mean, there is literally no slop here. Just a nice, free-flowing, I mean, just good precision. I mean, imagine that. With the guide not flopping around everywhere, and we have to change it and modify it and everything. And, you know, just a simple design with a screw, that's just the way to go. As far as the guide dimensions are, the depth, I measured 8.35. The length is 25.90 or 26. And the blade thickness is 1.58. And I mean, the guide is trimmable. I see some people complaining, but you know, if it doesn't fit your track, your Skeletric track, or you know, your slot depth, then get your Dremel out and sand the depth down a little bit, and you can take some side cutters or whatever, and you can reduce the length if that's an issue. So at least the modification on it is easy to do, or you can change it out to a smaller guide. You know, it's just that easy. At least this time, I don't have to change a guide, you know, to fit my track, which is what we have to do with the other cars. And, you know, because the guides are, you know, sloppy and, you know, they have no depth to them. So I'm just glad to see a guide like this included on the car. Okay, next up, we have the front axle here. We have, like I said, a lot to talk about. You can adjust it from down below here. You know, you have your standard set screws and 2 set screws down there. and you can adjust the height, and then you have your openings here at the top to add screws if you want the top adjustment. I didn't need it on this car, but you have the option. But you'll notice these bulkheads right here and from below, you notice, and the design here, and those familiar with the brand will already know, but this allows you to change this over to independent front suspension. Now, I got to tell you, that's a whole lot of tuning option for different tracks. I probably won't, but then again, I might just to test it in the future. But this option right here, there's been a lot of design and thought go into this. So hats off to him for that. Okay, for the rest of the chassis, you see he's got a 4-point pod system. Very well engineered, in my opinion. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Screws are, of course, accessible below. I backed them off about a half turn. Yeah, we'll play with that. But I got some pretty decent float to get started. Back here, you'll notice we have the slotted flat 6 motor, 11 to 29 gearing. We're going to take a closer look at that motor here in just a second. As far as the wheels go, you have your slotted axles, and the wheels are the 16.5 by 8. Now, I've already taken the tires off. The slotted standard rubber comes on there, and I've already ruined the markings, by the way. It doesn't take much. One thing I wanted to show you is that this doesn't have the smaller M2 screw. This has got the 2.5, so you're going to need a 1.3 millimeter wrench for this, and you're going to need it for the gear. But for the folks that don't like those tiny little screws, you should be happy. As far as the gearing is concerned, we just talked about that. Why are they on this side? It's just simply his choice during testing. They put it over here, and it has absolutely nothing to do with performance. This car, I've already tested it extensively, and trust me, there is no issue. It really doesn't make any difference. So what I like is the gear mesh, nice and smooth. The other thing about being nice and smooth is all about this. These bushings in the back, you notice how small they are, smaller than you're used to seeing on some cars. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm doing my best here to try to show you slop or free play. But see, I can't because of the precision here. And this is just a credit to him, like I said, in his passion, because that's what this is, of quality. And if you don't really appreciate this, go back to my Slotcar CUDA review and fast forward where we talk about that rear axle, and then come back to this, and you'll see exactly why I just appreciate that kind of precision. So overall, just very well executed. We're going to talk a little bit more about the motor, and we're going to talk about tires. All right, so the motor, it's a flat 6 from Slotted, and it fits inside the pod, and you'll see this movement right here, and you're going to think, well, that's not good. Well, it actually is. Here's the screw that goes in there. So once you put the screw in and mount it, it's locked in there nice and tight, no problem. I like that movement because it's not putting a lot of stress on the motor pod itself. So it's nice and free until you lock it down. In my personal opinion, I just like that. I tested the RPM, 20,400 at no load. So that's about average. They vary from motor to motor, but I'm happy with that. All right, it's everybody's favorite time. That's right, it's tire talk time. I know, I'm excited too. I mean, who doesn't love to talk about tires? I mean, really. But we're going to do something different here. We're going to start with the fronts. So you could use the stock fronts if you want to, but I decided to change these to the Quick Slicks makes a zero grip, and I put 32Z on the front. Now the diameter of these tires, a little larger than stock, but they still, the setup here is just about perfect. They're just barely touching. You know, you can adjust this with shims if you want a little bit more or whatever. I have the axle adjusted all the way up, but I think it's pretty good. You know, if you want to use stock, that's fine. And then you guys that do your voodoo that you do so well with coatings and stuff, you can have fun with it. I'm just going to stick with these. Now, we're going to talk about the rears. Okay, moving on to the rear. For silicone, I'm going to go with the Quick Slicks 33F firm compound. That's what I'm going to start with. I don't know if I'll go to extra firm, but that's what I'm going to do. The diameter of this tire is pretty close to stock, maybe slightly bigger. You could go with 32 if you want to. I'm going to stick with 33. I think that's going to work just fine. So that's my choice for the rear. If you want urethane, if you don't want silicone, then I found that the Paul Gauge 2010 5LM is a great fit because you're going to sand this tire and bring the diameter down. So after test fitting, you know, that's my choice. Now, these are just your stock, pretty close to stock size slip-ons, but we're going to look at one more. Okay, so this is for the racer, and most of them already know this, but it doesn't always work with every car because you try to get a wider tire on something, it just doesn't fit because of clearance or whatever. But I tested this car with the CB41F. Now, you can go 42, larger diameter, but it clears everything. So you're getting a wider tire patch. You're talking about, you know, 10.30 millimeter, and then the 33F is, of course, 9.15. So you're getting a little bit more rubber to the road. I like that. And it doesn't rub anything. You'll see how close it is to the motor shaft. Now, a lot of us that do these tuning, we can trim that motor shaft, bring that back, but just right out of the bag, it's not rubbing. So I don't have to do anything. But it's just an option if you'd like to have just a little bit more meat. Okay, so ready for the road test. The only thing I've done is I've returned the tires here to the 33s. That's what we're going to use for our test video, you know, just for a review. And then back here, a little bit of lubricant, just a drop on each bushing, just a slight drop right here in the front and rear of the motor right there. You can use some grease if you want to on the gears. I use some of this synthetic grease, just a very light coat, and I mean very light, and that's it. So we're going to button this thing up and let's see what it has. Well, already I can tell you this thing is just super smooth. Wow, what a great car. Just planted. I mean, those of you that out there, a little veterans, got a little sideways. You know what that feels like. This car, wow. Just, like I said, car is just fast. It, for my small track, is one thing. We're talking about my track 4x16, but you know, this car is just itching to get on a big one. And I'd really love to hear the feedback from you guys out there racing on the bigger tracks and letting me know how this thing goes. Because down here, I mean, this thing is just super quick. I'll just slow it down just a little bit. I mean, it's just super smooth. The gear mesh, just the action of the car. I could speed it up a little bit. And I could push it harder. But, man, I've done some lap times on it. And, well, I'll show you that. But, Well done, MR Slotcar. Nice car, just nice. Okay, so I've ran a few laps on this car, adjusting the pod, etc., cleaning the tires, but I have to tell you, 3.496, whew, Jesus Marimba. That's getting after it out here on this track. Like I said, we're just scratching the surface on tuning and adjusting, but that's more than respectable. And there you have it. Lap times aside, I know some people just, judge a car on just its lap time, and those of us that have been in the hobby a little bit longer, we know better than that. It's just not the lap time, it's the potential. Just because the car out of the box doesn't break the land speed record, this one almost did though, doesn't mean it doesn't have potential. And this car is chock full of it. And I have to say that I think so far this year, with the reviews, the cars that we've looked at, the releases, that this is really close, if not the winner of my slot car of the year, because it has a lot going for it. It's different. It isn't the same old mold. It keeps getting reproduced by Carrera, Slot It, Sideways. Everybody, well, we're going to do a Group 5 this, and everybody does. But this is unique. I like the tribute livery. It works, like I said, on this car. And it's the precision, the attention to detail with the chassis, the fitment of everything, from the guide to the rear axle and the bushings. Just, like I said, this is what happens when you give a damn about what you're doing. So, hats off to Ernie at MR Slotcar. I got to tell you, this is just one smooth running, very fun and enjoyable slot car. And at the end of the day, well, that's all we're really looking for, is to have some fun. And man, this car has it by the ton. So that's just my opinion. Look forward to your feedback, all of you guys out there that are racing them. Look forward to hearing your track reports. But I have to tell you, only 550 of them, huh? Well, we'll see about that. But just to let you guys know, I was so impressed with this car, I just ordered the other two immediately because, I have 3 lanes. Wouldn't it be great to just have all 3 of these cars out here for a night of fun? So hopefully when the guys come visit, that's exactly what we're going to do. Anyway, again, hats off. This is just a great slot car. It was a real pleasure driving, tuning, and working with this car. And like I said, look forward to your feedback, guys. We'll see you online.